Mesdames et messieurs, nous allons commencer. On va vous demander de prendre vos places. Merci.
Le pays mondial a été rejeté.
C'est en dollars. Mais s'ils ont un compte en dollars, c'est quoi le problème? C'est quoi le problème?
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. We welcome you back to the afternoon session of our first day of the General Assembly. This morning, we advanced well according to the provisional timetable, covering items from 1 up to adopting the draft decision of item 5 on the report by the committee to the General Assembly. We had even gone ahead of schedule and opened the item 6 on the report by the Secretariat on its activities. We shall continue the examination of item 6 this afternoon, followed by item 7 on the accreditation of NGOs and 11 on the election of committee members. I believe we have finished the morning session with a presentation of the ADG for item 6, and I will now open the floor for debate. Are there any states that wish to take the floor? Palestine.
Austria.
Would you like me to read them out, or?
No, let
No?
me put it there, Azerbaijan, so
Okay.
you can see them. Austrian leaders, Malaysia, Armenia, Latvia, Colombia, Cyprus,
Malaysia.
China, Mexico,
Mongolia.
If you allow me, I will read the names. Okay, so I have, I have Estonia, Lithuania, Japan, Finland, France, Italy, Netherlands, Palestine, Austria, Azerbaijan, Malaysia, Armenia, Latvia, Colombia, Cyprus, China, Mexico, Mongolia, Norway, Sweden, Slovakia, Czechia, Switzerland, Brazil, Philippines, Kenya, Grenada, Finland. No, Finland was. Netherlands also, Palestine also, Ethiopia. Philippines is okay, Armenia is okay, Japan is okay, Colombia, they are okay, Cyprus are okay, China is okay. Peru? Where? Egypt, sorry. Poland. Okay. Mali, you said? Mali. Okay, I have also, to be sure, Kenya, Grenada, Ethiopia, Egypt, UAE, Poland, and Peru. Okay.
Okay, shall we start? I call on Estonia and Latvia to start our discussions, our interventions. Estonia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Estonia would like to thank the Secretariat for the detailed overview of the wide array of activities that the Committee and the Secretariat have undertaken during the reporting period in order to support states in the implementation of the Convention. The past 2 years have been characterized not only by COVID-19 pandemic, but also by successful global reflection on the listing mechanisms of the Convention and the first results of the ambitious periodic reporting reform. Estonia would also like to highlight the valuable work done in capacity building and the initiatives in new thematic fields, such as ICH and climate change, economic dimensions, and living heritage in urban contexts. The new tool, Dive into Living Heritage and Sustainable Development, and the first massive online open course, MOOC, on ICH and sustainable development have successfully demonstrated the wide-ranging interlinkages between living heritage and sustainable development. The report also clearly shows that the statutory demands are on the rise, but the Secretariat's budget and staffing situation has not been growing. As pointed out by the recent IOS evaluation, under these circumstances, the Secretariat is unable to adequately respond to all requests. This led to the IOS recommendation to establish priorities for the use of the limited resources of the 2003 Convention Secretariat. It is up to the states parties now to guide the Secretariat on where the priorities lie. Estonia participated in the open-ended intergovernmental working group on the global reflection on the listing mechanisms under the able leadership of His Excellency, the Ambassador of Japan. We have seen how much time, negotiations, and considerations are behind the proposals that are now presented to the General Assembly for adoption as revisions to the operational guidelines. These are sound and constructive proposals, and we hope they will be adopted in their entirety. The periodic reporting reform has demonstrated a great submission rate of reports. We believe that one of the secrets of success has been the comprehensive online training course offered by the Secretariat, allowing the focal points to foster very strong peer-to-peer exchanges and learning among themselves. On the other hand, the reporting form in its current state is quite challenging and the process extremely time-consuming. In order to facilitate meaningful engagement of practitioners, the language used in the form needs to be less bureaucratic and less abstract. Therefore, the form would benefit from revisions for the next reporting cycle. We believe that this would strengthen the real impact of this process in terms of safeguarding intangible cultural heritage. We see further potential in strengthening engagement with partners such as accredited NGOs, UNESCO chairs, and Category 2 centers. These partners do important work in contributing to the Secretariat's capacity building program, in research and safeguarding projects on the ground, as well as in periodic reporting. The IOS report also found that these partners are currently underutilized and their work is not sufficiently visible. We should continue reflection on how we can strengthen collaboration with these important partners. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Estonia, and we invite Latvia to take the floor.
I'm sorry, I think it was Lithuania next.
I'm sorry. My bad. Lithuania, please take the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Tout d'abord, nous tenons à remercier sincèrement le Secrétariat pour le soutien substantiel apporté aux travaux des organes directeurs et à toute la communication effectuée au cours de la période considérée. Le travail des réunions du groupe de travail intergouvernemental à composition non limitée ayant pour but le développement de la réflexion globale sur les mécanismes d'inscription sur la liste de convention était d'une grande importance et cela a pu avoir lieu seulement grâce aux efforts, le professionnalisme et le soutien du secrétariat, sans oublier bien sûr le généreux support du gouvernement du Japon. Le secrétariat a entrepris avec succès de nombreuses actions en faveur des États membres qui, après leur réforme, ont participé à 2 cycles des rapports périodiques y inclus des cours de formation, ce qui a amélioré considérablement le taux de soumission des rapports, ce que nous apprécions vivement. L'année précédente, donc, la Lituanie a soumis déjà son 3e rapport, comme elle était un État partie qui a ratifié la Convention en 2004. Et nous devrions avouer que ce rapport a été une activité qui a demandé beaucoup d'efforts et de ressources, probablement même parfois un peu excessif au niveau national. Nous avons remarqué que certaines questions du formulaire peut-être pourraient être considérées plutôt déclaratives ou trop formelles, bien qu'étant très importantes à réfléchir. Et l'évaluation des données par rapport aux indicateurs est assez relative ou un peu subjectif. Nous sommes d'avis que le formulaire des rapports quadriennaux et les questions posées dans le formulaire pourraient être simplifiées dans l'avenir et la réflexion sur ce sujet pourrait être utile. Deuxième point auquel nous voudrions attirer votre attention, c'est la question de terminologie et justement l'emploi de la notion « les points focaux ». Nous sommes habitués à rencontrer ce terme dans le cadre des autres conventions, tandis que ni le texte de la Convention 2003 ni les directives opérationnelles ne le mentionnent. Cela a apparu seulement dans les dernières années. Il y a une incertitude dans son emploi si nous le voyons écrit dans les guillemets dans les documents de travail. Donc, il serait utile de définir les termes qui apparaissent dans le champ de la Convention pour savoir vraiment quelles responsabilités nous y sous-entendons, et cela pourrait faire part des directives opérationnelles probablement. Nous voudrions mettre un accent particulier sur l'importance de la conférence mondiale de l'UNESCO sur les politiques culturelles et le développement durable Mondiaculte 2022, qui sera convoquée en septembre et va soulever les questions très pertinentes, y inclut le patrimoine et la créativité en temps de crise. Nous espérons que les compétences et les ressources du secrétariat de la Convention et l'entité de patrimoine vivant ont déjà été ou seront impliqués dans la mise en œuvre de cet événement très important, car la sauvegarde du PCI représente un domaine des politiques culturelles très important. Comme cela n'est pas reflété vraiment dans le rapport du secrétariat, nous serions très reconnaissants pour quelques informations peut-être brèves et générales de la part du secrétariat sur sa contribution à la mise en œuvre ou à l'élaboration du programme de la conférence Mondiaculte. En général, la quantité de documents de travail bien préparés par le secrétariat est impressionnante. Nous félicitons plusieurs actions et documents produits au cours de la période considérée, soutien aux mécanismes d'assistance internationale, la recherche des synergies avec d'autres conventions culturelles, activités par rapport à l'intégration du PCI dans l'éducation formelle et non formelle, ainsi que les contributions du patrimoine vivant au développement durable et beaucoup d'autres. Nous félicitons le projet de résolution et remercions vivement le secrétariat pour l'immense travail qui a été accompli et qui, nous l'espérons, se poursuivra. Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Lithuania. And now we go to Japan, followed by Finland. Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And first of all, congratulations for your election as Chair. And secondly, Japan would like to commend the Secretariat and the Committee for its work during the period of 2020 and 2022. Well, we welcome Angola and Somalia as new members of the Convention. It is really moving to think of a fact that next year, 2023, will mark the 20th anniversary of this important convention. During these 20 years, the Intangible Heritage Convention has developed into a very tangible, very visible convention, now embracing 180 members. This is, in fact, a great achievement. Madam Chair, we believe that capacity building is very important for the protection of intangible cultural heritage, and I would like to thank the Secretariat for its efforts in this area, utilizing various means. Japan also appreciates the cross-sectoral collaboration with the education sector to promote intangible culture in formal and non-formal education, as well as its efforts on intangible cultural heritage and climate change, another important topic for our country. Japan has been supporting the Intergovernmental Open-Ended Working Group for the global reflection of the listing mechanism, and it was my great personal honor to chair the meeting. With your kind cooperation, the working group was able to produce the results for your consideration of this General Assembly. Japan will complete its term of office as a member of the committee at this General Assembly, maybe today, to be precise, but will continue to be actively involved in the ICH committee and is looking forward to fruitful discussions at this General Assembly. And also all the best wishes for the future members to be elected tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Japan, and we invite Finland to take the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Finland would like to thank the Secretariat for the organization of this meeting and also both the Secretariat and the committee for the good work they've done in the recent years, despite the challenging circumstances. At the same time, we have been learning new ways of working together, mainly online. The Secretariat reacted quickly to the pandemic and has been able to introduce digital tools and new ways of working that will enhance our work also in the future. These new possibilities can make the world smaller and help to boost the implementation of the Convention in many levels. We thank for this extensive report, which truly shows the versatile and far-reaching work the Secretariat is doing. We want to highlight the important role the Secretariat plays in supporting the implementation of the Convention. Especially we want to thank on the work with the periodic reporting. The impressive results and rates of submission close to 90% clearly shows that the new system of periodic reporting is functioning. For us focal points, the work has been extensive and challenging, but also rewarding in many ways. It helps the state parties to better understand the demands of the Convention and the actions that are necessary for safeguarding ICH effectively in our countries. The training related to the periodic reporting organized successfully even in the times of pandemic has brought focal points of the Convention closer to one another. One proof of this is the European Network of Focal Points for the 2003 Convention, established last year by the initiative of Italy and Finland, and now connecting colleagues throughout Europe. Another thing we'd like to stress here is the work done on thematic initiatives, highlighting the contributions of living heritage to sustainable development. This work is urgent and we all need to act on it now. Agenda 2030 and the building of sustainable future should be at the core of all of our efforts. For this, the member states need tools, guidance, and good practices. We look curiously for hearing more about the concept notes being prepared by the Secretariat on climate change, economic dimensions and urban context, and also look forward on the more information on the plans regarding Mondia cult. We also thank for the work with the massive online course focusing on sustainability. Finland is keen to learn more and also share its own experience. At the moment, we are working on the 3-year project LIVINT, Creative and Living Cultural Heritage as a resource for the Northern Dimension region, bringing together 9 countries in the Nordic Dimension region. The results will be shared globally with colleagues. Furthermore, we'd like to thank the Secretariat for its work on communications and outreach. One common goal for the state parties in our region in 2023 is to highlight the European Heritage Days theme year Living Heritage by the Council of Europe. This is one concrete way to lift up ICH on the European agendas and create synergies. Lastly, we would like to use this chance to highlight the role of and the efforts by the accredited NGOs and the ICH NGO Forum to support the implementation of the Convention. We very much welcome the ongoing reflection on this role they can participate in the mechanisms of the Convention. Thank you.
Thank you, and we call on France to take the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Félicitations pour votre élection et félicitations à tous les membres du bureau puisque c'est la première fois que je prends la parole lors de cette Assemblée générale. Donc, la France remercie le Secrétariat pour ce rapport qui fait état de son activité sur le biennium 2020-2021 ainsi que le comité qui a fait son rapport précédemment. La France attache une importance primordiale à la Convention de 2003. Et cet attachement se matérialise notamment cette année par une contribution volontaire en sa faveur à hauteur de 100 000 €. L'engagement des services de l'État en interne et notamment du ministère de la Culture est fort. Il existe un comité du patrimoine ethnologique et immatériel, CPEI, qui est en fait le pendant français du comité du patrimoine immatériel de l'UNESCO, et au sein duquel s'implique la société civile française qui fait part de son expertise dans le domaine du patrimoine vivant. Donc il s'agit, via ce comité, de mettre en œuvre et d'animer la politique de la France dans le domaine du patrimoine ethnologique et immatériel. Par ailleurs, la préservation du patrimoine vivant suscite un intérêt croissant au niveau national, comme en témoigne la publication d'un rapport sur le sujet par le Sénat en mai 2021. Pour rappel, donc, ce rapport constitue un état des lieux à l'approche des 20 ans de la Convention pour la sauvegarde du patrimoine culturel immatériel et comporte 25 propositions qui seront en partie suivies par le ministère français de la Culture pour ce qui relève de sa compétence. Un autre exemple de cet engagement en faveur du patrimoine culturel immatériel dans notre pays, donc c'est le projet mené par la chaire UNESCO Patrimoine culturel immatériel et développement durable, qui consiste en un inventaire du patrimoine culturel immatériel des réfugiés ukrainiens en France. Cette enquête se penchera sur les effets que le déplacement forcé dans un contexte d'urgence peut avoir sur la transmission du PCI et sur ses fonctions. Enfin, la France partage les remarques qui ont été exprimées précédemment au sujet de la complexité des formulaires, des rapports régionaux, nationaux. C'est ce que nous avions dit lors du comité en décembre dernier. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, Franz. And before we go to the next speaker, Italy, we'd like to pause her a bit to give the Secretariat time to respond to matters raised by previous speakers in their interventions. Mr. ADG, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Para poder responder, entre otros, a la intervención de Estonia, Lituania, Finlandia, Japón y Francia, Primero, agradecer en nombre del Secretariado los buenos augurios y las felicitaciones por el trabajo emprendido. Tal como fue descrito, efectivamente, fueron tiempos complejos en que tuvimos que, como todos, adaptarnos a situaciones y realidades nuevas que implicaron también modernizar la forma de trabajo. Estoy pensando sobre todo en todo lo que refiere a capacitación y el trabajo de switch en online que tuvimos que hacer de manera coordinada, gracias también al esfuerzo entregado por ustedes. Con respecto a los temas mencionados sobre los formularios, que efectivamente durante el comité en diciembre pasado salió, no podemos sino compartir esa preocupación y creemos que la Convención del Patrimonio Inmaterial ha llegado a un nivel de madurez donde nos permite poner un lenguaje más universal, más simple y más acorde a los tiempos que estamos viviendo y por lo tanto serán las discusiones que vendrán, esperamos prontamente, para poder hacerlo. Sobre las temáticas mencionadas específicamente por Finlandia, que son las que fueron anunciadas como los nuevos campos de trabajo, que sea el cambio climático, los temas de urbanización y otros, ya tendrán acceso a ello, estamos en las fases iniciales. Lo importante es entender que estas reflexiones van también en línea con reflexiones llevadas por las otras entidades, sea en el marco de sus convenciones, es decir, de sus reuniones estatutarias, como es el caso del Patrimonio Mundial, como también en reuniones más transversales con otros sectores, como es el caso del tema del cambio climático en educación y ciencias. Con respecto a Mondiacult, es importante que entiendan que cuando hace 4 años se hicieron esta nueva modalidad de entidades en el sector cultura, se construyó de modo que se entendiera que las entidades tienen una parte que es estatutaria, que es la que hoy día estoy reemplazando yo a Tim, pero que tiene otro gorro que es el de políticas públicas. Y todos los jefes de entidades participan activamente en la elaboración de todas las reuniones que tengan que ver con políticas públicas en el sector cultura. Por lo tanto, en este caso, el inmaterial, el material, situaciones de crisis, diversidad de expresiones culturales, participan activamente en la elaboración de la agenda de políticas públicas. Sin embargo, en el caso de la conferencia de categoría 2 Mondiacult, los que arman las prioridades y la agenda no es el secretariado. El secretariado los acompaña, son los Estados miembros y es a partir de las consultas regionales efectuadas que se sacaron las grandes temáticas que hoy en día se ven reflejados en este proceso de declaración y de la organización misma del evento. Pero quiero dejarlos asegurando que ese trabajo transversal dentro del sector cultura es la práctica habitual de la forma de trabajar de este sector en particular de la UNESCO, en donde efectivamente cada director de entidades participa de manera activa en la formulación de una mirada transversal y, por supuesto, múltiples los factores que hoy día nos preocupan en el ámbito de la cultura. Finalmente, el tema de la ONG acreditada, de las cátedras UNESCO y de los centros de categoría 2, sin duda, y yo llevo 4 años escuchando repetitivamente, no solamente en esta convención, sino en las otras, la necesidad de hacer un trabajo más reforzado con esas entidades que están asociadas a la UNESCO. Y no puedo sino compartir el análisis que ustedes hacen, que iOS hace como recomendación, no por primera vez, sino por enésima vez, y sin duda que la metodología de trabajo que nosotros tenemos, tanto en esta convención como en las otras convenciones, va a cambiar su foco de trabajo mancomunado con las cátedras específicamente, con los centros de categoría 2, ya que el trabajo con la ONG acreditada está llevando, y creo que el patrimonio inmaterial es el mejor ejemplo de cómo se trabaja con la ONG para poder abarcar ciertas problemáticas que son llevadas al conocimiento de usted y que hoy día nos permiten trabajar mancomunadamente en un esfuerzo donde el patrimonio inmaterial no se saca del contexto global de lo que es el patrimonio, pero se focaliza en ciertas temáticas específicas. Así que muchas gracias por la felicitación al secretariado. Nos queda mucho por hacer, claramente. Sin embargo, creo que en estos 2 años no hemos perdido el tiempo y creo, viendo el ambiente que hay en la sala, me doy cuenta que eso también es parte del trabajo de este equipo que sigue siendo reducido, que sigue faltando de financiamiento, pero que sin embargo se ha dedicado plenamente a darle satisfacción y buscar soluciones para sus Estados miembros. Muchas gracias, señora presidenta.
Thank you, ADG. And now we proceed with our speakers list. Italy, you have the floor.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Présidente. Nous tenons d'abord à nous féliciter de votre élection et j'en profite pour assurer à vous et aux autres membres du bureau tout notre soutien pour la réussite des travaux. Je voudrais d'abord réitérer certains points, vu qu'on n'est pas intervenu ce matin, qui ont déjà été soulignés par des autres délégations. Premièrement, nous considérons que le patrimoine culturel immatériel est un facteur important pour la diversité culturelle et qu'être conscient de ces patrimoines des différentes communautés est utile au dialogue interculturel et encourage le respect mutuel. Parfois, on se rend compte de ça, surtout dans des situations de crise. La période que nous venons de traverser est unique et extraordinaire. Comme il a été déjà dit à plusieurs reprises, l'UNESCO a fait des immenses efforts pour répondre vite et de manière efficace à cette situation dans tous les domaines de son compétence. Face aux défis auxquels nous sommes confrontés, de la crise sanitaire au conflit en cours dans plusieurs pays, la Convention de 2003 a démontré une fois de plus toute sa valeur et toute son actualité. À cet égard, l'Italie voudrait s'associer à ce qui a été déjà dit ce matin par des autres délégations par rapport à la récente inscription du borsch ukrainien dans la liste du patrimoine immatériel et souhaite exprimer son plein soutien à l'Ukraine suite à l'agression militaire de la Russie et souligner l'exigence de protéger les patrimoines culturels immatériels des pays dans ces moments de crise. Les rapports du secrétariat, dont nous nous remercions, identifient nombreux points que nous considérons très importants pour la future mise en œuvre de la Convention de 2003. La réforme des rapports périodiques, les rôles de la société civile dans l'application de la Convention, les mesures de renforcement des capacités, l'importance des liens entre les patrimoines vivants et le développement durable, les rôles de l'éducation, les rôles des jeunes. Dans ces contextes, nous attachons une grande importance à la réflexion sur les nouveaux mécanismes d'inscription qui a donné lieu à l'adoption d'un nouveau texte pendant la section extraordinaire du comité du 1er juillet sur laquelle cette Assemblée devra se prononcer. En ce qui concerne la mise en œuvre de la Convention, l'Italie est très heureuse de s'associer à ce que vient d'être dit par notre collègue de la Finlande par rapport à les réseaux des focal points italiens, de l'European Network of Focal Points, qui constitue le premier réseau des focal points pour la Convention de 2003 pour les pays du groupe 1 et 2, qui se réunira demain pour la première fois en présentiel. L'objectif de ces projets est de contribuer à la mise en œuvre de la Convention en encourageant les dialogues et la coopération interculturelle dans la région et en identifiant des synergies et initiatives conjointes. Nous espérons que cette initiative attirera également d'autres groupes intéressés. Nous remercions donc chaleureusement la Finlande de s'être jointe à cette initiative. Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Italy. And now the next speakers will be Netherlands, followed by Palestine. We start first with the Netherlands.
Thank you, Chair. We thank the Secretariat for the excellent report and making sure the continuity of all the functions within the framework of the Convention. The Netherlands has always advocated new thematic initiatives, and we are looking forward to several of the relevant new thematic initiatives, such as heritage in urban context and intangible heritage and climate change. We applaud the capacity building project safeguarding living heritage during emergencies in small island development states, which can yield important lessons for the Caribbean parts of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. As the IOC evaluation points out, it is necessary to prioritize the use of the limited resources of the Secretariat. The Netherlands has always stressed the importance of capacity building rather than focusing to the lists, which we see as an important means to safeguarding intangible heritage, but not as a goal in itself. We are very pleased with the toolkit on international assistance mechanisms. We are wondering how the Secretariat will bring this toolkit to the attention of the numerous communities and relevant organizations for whom this can be a useful tool. The decrease in the number of requests for this important instrument is worrisome. To conclude, the Netherlands supports the Secretariat with the follow-up on the important recommendations of the IOC evaluation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Netherlands. And now Palestine has the floor.
شكرا سيدة الرئيسة. اسمحي لي أولا أن أتقدم لك بالتهنئة لانتخابكم رئيسة لجمعيتنا العامة، ونؤكد دعمنا لك وكذلك لجميع أعضاء المكتب المنتخبين. وأود أيضا أن أتوجه بالشكر للسكرتاريا ليس فقط لهذا التقرير الذي تم تقديمه، ولكن لكل جهودها المتواصلة. والشكر أيضا موصول للجنة التي قدمت تقريرها في البند السابق. Madam Chair, as a matter of truth, my colleague, the focal point of the convention with me, has prepared an intervention focusing especially on emergency cases, including occupation, which is the case of Palestine, as you know. But I think at this stage we need to discuss what is included in the report of the Secretariat and what we have as comments to the Secretariat. And in this regard, I would like to link two issues in the report regarding the activities, the operational activities and the synergies and the thematic things. And namely, I'm talking about the capacity building that has been raised in different interventions and the workshops that the Secretariat did, and we commend the Secretariat for this work. But my suggestion, in order to enhance the synergies between the cultural conventions of UNESCO, it would be, I think, very important and very efficient to invite focal points of other cultural conventions when the Secretariat organize regional workshops, for example, for the periodic reporting, as has been done in the last period mentioned in the report in Africa and in the Arab world and in Latin America. So this suggestion is already implemented by other conventions, namely 54, Second Protocol, and 1970. When they hold workshops, they invite and they convey all stakeholders in these conventions. So my suggestion is to make it more large and include all other cultural conventions. This is the first point. Second thing, I would like to thank the chair of the open-ended working group for the listing mechanism and the working group itself for the work they provided. During the discussions, and I know that there is still discussions going on regarding criterion 2. So I have a question. We know that the Secretariat worked hard to simplify the nomination form, which has been done successfully. I think that maybe, meanwhile, because the reflection is still going on regarding this criterion, maybe the Secretariat could enhance the form again and simplify the questions relating to this criterion. And finally, last but not least, Madam Chair, I have a concrete and operational, let's say, suggestion. You can notice that almost all the interventions this morning, after item 5, which was the report of the committee on its activities, the interventions at the beginning were connected and related to the item under discussions. And afterwards, it looks like a national statement. It was national statements, actually. So my suggestion is that to include an item on the agenda regularly entitled national statements, Some colleagues said, well, in that case, all state parties will take the floor and we will need one more day, one extra day to finish this item. No, we can get inspired by what happens in the General Conference. If there are so many requests for speeches, in that case, the time could be limited to 2 or 3 or 4 minutes, it depends. So, with this, again, Madam Chair, أود أن أشكرك ثانية وأن أشكر السكرتارية لجهدها الدؤوب والمتواصل ونؤكد دعمنا الكامل لك ولأعضاء المكتب وكذلك للسكرتارية. شكرا سيدة الرئيسة.
Thank you, Palestine. And now we go to Austria, followed by Azerbaijan. You have the floor, Austria.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, please let me join the many delegations before me in congratulating you to your election as a chair of this assembly. We would like to thank the Secretariat for their dedicated work and excellent preparation of this meeting under these still very extraordinary circumstances. We appreciate the quality of the Secretariat's work and recognize the high workload. Sorry. As we have just heard before lunch break, really a lot has happened in spite of the difficult COVID-19 situation. The Secretariat has ensured sound governance, including all statutory mechanisms and key operational initiatives at any time. The 2003 Convention has achieved nearly universal ratification, and we welcome Angola and Somalia as our newest members. We can be proud at the eve of the 20th anniversary because since its ratification, the Convention has evolved immensely and will do so in the future. Austria continues to be deeply committed to the values and principles of the Convention. Among the most prominent milestones of the past 2 years were the reform of the reporting system and the global reflection on the listing mechanisms. The success of the new reporting system is clearly reflected in the highest submission rate ever. The Latin America and Caribbean region, as well as Europe, have undergone comprehensive training courses and taken all efforts for reports of highest quality. What we might reconsider is if the quality can be equally ensured with less elaborated procedures and less comprehensive questions to facilitate the work for both the state parties as well as the Secretariat. Some countries, like Estonia and Lithuania, have referred to it just before. As regards the global reflection on the listing mechanisms, we have to thank the Japanese government for excellent and very efficient coordination of this process. The topics discussed were crucial since they touched upon the core functions of our Convention. According to Article 1, the purposes are safeguarding ICH, ensure respect for ICH, raise awareness, and provide for international cooperation and assistance. For us, the listing mechanisms are one tool to safeguard ICH at the international level. Most important are implementation activities like capacity building, ongoing thematic initiatives, like sustainable development, for instance, with regard to climate change or in urban contexts, or response to emergency situations, among others. Once again, please let us compliment the Secretariat for the excellent work and wish Tim Curtis a speedy recovery. We are looking forward to interesting and inspiring discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Austria. And now the floor is yours, Azerbaijan.
Thank you, Madam President. Azerbaijan would like to commend the efforts of the Secretariat over the past 2 years, despite the multiple challenges, most notably due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. In this context, we welcome the support to the functioning of the core mechanisms of the Convention's governing bodies, operational activities and programs, as well as the adjustments made to the statutory and operational activities in response to the pandemic. Our delegation also welcomes the measures undertaken by the Secretariat in strengthening synergies between the 2003 Convention and other UNESCO cultural conventions, and notably with the 1954 Convention for the Protection of Cultural Property in the event of armed conflict and its 2 protocols. We believe this work should be continued and strengthened in the next 2 years. Azerbaijan takes note with satisfaction efficient work of the Secretariat in implementing 2 periodic reporting cycles in the regions of Latin America and the Caribbean and Europe in the context of the reformed periodic reporting mechanism. This work needs to be continued as other regions, Arab states, Africa and Asia, and the Pacific embark on the periodic reporting exercise. Azerbaijan wishes to highlight the implementation of the program in the field of intangible cultural heritage and education. We would call upon greater synergies and collaboration with specific programs of the UNESCO education sector, such as technical and vocational education and training education for sustainable development and education in emergencies. Our delegation is willing to know, in this context, if training support could also be operationalized in such areas as intangible cultural heritage and climate change, as well as commercialization and intangible cultural heritage in urban contexts, which represent a growing challenge that needs to be addressed. Finally, Azerbaijan reiterates the value of strengthening the role and place of intangible cultural heritage in cultural policies and invites the Secretariat to further reflect on possible ways in supporting Member States the integration of intangible cultural heritage in sustainable development programs and policies, especially given the ongoing preparations of the Mondial Conference. I thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Azerbaijan. Our next speakers are Malaysia, followed by Armenia. Malaysia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Malaysia appreciates the dedication and the enormous efforts undertaken by the Secretariat during the challenging times of the pandemic. Despite the difficult time for the past 2 years, the work undertaken by the Secretariat is commendable and much appreciated. The debates during the open-ended working group under the able leadership of Ambassador of Japan, whereby Malaysia participated had paved the way for a better understanding and clarity in dealing with arising issues under the Convention. In this regard, Malaysia welcomes the approved operational principles and modalities for the safeguarding of intangible cultural heritage during emergencies. Malaysia is revising the mechanisms to adopt and adapt the operational principles and modalities. The reform of the periodic reporting, which is a new system of reporting, facilitates greatly state parties, and we hope that we shall see more submission in the future. The online reporting will allow and enable state parties to better share their activities and achievements held in the different regions, as the Convention itself has now gained greater traction. Despite the limited resources under the sector, Malaysia hopes that priority could be given for the effort of strengthening capacity building programs, outreach programs, and development plans focusing on the effects of climate change among state parties across the regions. We are also hopeful of the ongoing global reflection on the listing mechanisms and look forward for the positive outcome of the reflection process, which will be discussed under item 9 of the agenda. This will indeed be another milestone of the listing mechanism under the 2003 Convention once endorsed. Finally, Malaysia wishes to highlight the need to enhance the collaboration of UNESCO Category 2 Center under this sector across regions in promoting the programs and activities under the Convention. Thank you.
Terima kasih, Malaysia. And now it's Armenia's turn to take the floor.
Merci Madame la Présidente. La délégation de la République d'Arménie remercie le Secrétariat pour son rapport et pouvoir avoir rempli sa mission dans le contexte difficile de la pandémie de la Covid-19. Elle garde particulièrement à l'esprit celle relative à la gouvernance de la Convention de 2003. Cette délégation exprime toute son appréciation à propos de la réflexion globale sur les mécanismes d'inscription et salue le travail effectué dans le cadre des différentes réunions d'experts. S'agissant de la soumission des rapports périodiques, nous nous réjouissons des effets positifs de la réforme constatée dans l'augmentation des taux de soumission. Nous mesurons aussi l'engagement fort du secrétariat auprès de l'organe d'évaluation, tout particulièrement dans l'examen des dossiers de candidature. En ce qui concerne la coopération avec les ONG, cette délégation a toujours considéré le rôle joué par les organisations non gouvernementales accréditées dans la protection du patrimoine vivant. Elle se réjouit du caractère opérationnel de la coopération avec le Forum des ONG dans le but de spécifier la façon dont les ONG accréditées peuvent au mieux remplir leurs fonctions consultatives auprès du comité. S'agissant de la sauvegarde du patrimoine culturel immatériel dans les situations d'urgence, il faut se réjouir des initiatives prises dans ce domaine par le secrétariat, particulièrement dans le cadre des synergies avec d'autres conventions culturelles. J'ai déjà eu l'occasion de dire dans mon intervention ce matin combien ce patrimoine pouvait se trouver dans certains cas extrêmement vulnérable, notamment dans les situations de conflit. J'ai exprimé les préoccupations de l'Arménie concernant le patrimoine culturel immatériel arménien dans les territoires du Haut-Karabakh occupés par l'Azerbaïdjan. N'en déplaise aux représentants de l'Azerbaïdjan, il est un fait notoire que les populations arméniennes vivant dans les régions d'Adroud et de Souchi ont été expulsées de ces territoires lors de l'agression de l'Azerbaïdjan contre le Haut-Karabakh en automne 2020, et que de ce fait, privées de vie sociale, culturelle et économique, de graves menaces pèsent sur leur patrimoine culturel immatériel. Contrairement à ce qui a pu être dit, ces faits sont d'une actualité brûlante. Ils coïncident avec la destruction des biens culturels arméniens situés sur ces mêmes territoires. Et ce n'est pas un hasard si, jusqu'aujourd'hui, les autorités azerbaïdjanaises continuent à refuser le libre accès à ces sites aux experts de l'UNESCO, empêchant ainsi la mission technique indépendante de l'UNESCO de se rendre sur le terrain. C'est donc bien l'ensemble du patrimoine culturel arménien de ces territoires qui se trouve aujourd'hui en danger. Je vous remercie pour votre attention.
Thank you, Armenia. And now we're going to make our little pause to give the Secretariat the chance to answer some of the questions or matters raised in the interventions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks. I would like to thank all delegates who have taken the floor until now to give us such encouragement. Our team, our back office, is furiously taking notes because your feedback is extremely important to us. I would also like to thank, on behalf of my chief, the Secretary Tim Curtis, for the kind words you have offered. He is actually following this meeting and then would be back very soon, I'm sure. In the meantime, he also thank you very much for the feedback. There have been many comments on periodic reporting, and building on the ADG's reply, I would also like to add that indeed it is normal to have such big and important feedback, particularly from the European region and Latin American regions, because these two regions have come through the exercise the first time. And the reason why the forms may appear very strict, rather cumbersome, technical, it's because in the first instance, the exercise has been very, very strictly and closely aligned to the overall results framework that has so many numbers of assessment factors and indicators and so on. That was our starting point, to be very fidel and respectful of this, what we consider a very innovative, forward-looking monitoring tool that would allow us to measure the impact of the implementation of the convention at different levels. Now that two regions have gone through the periodic reporting exercise the first time, obviously we will be learning from this experience, trying to make it user-friendly, disseminate the analysis to different regions, enhance our capacity approach, and so on and so forth. Please count on us. Also in that respect, I wish to bring in some clarification about the term focal point. We are using the word focal point in the sense, quite strictly again, for periodic reporting purposes. And perhaps there we have to make a little distinction with the terminology of a general nature, like national points of contact that we see in our sister convention, 2005 convention, that has such terminology in their fundamental text. We do not for the time being. But for us, it has been very useful to be able to work with national focal points. And for that reason, we appreciate very much the initiative of some European countries, if I'm not mistaken, that of Finland and Italy, that have created and supported the network of country focal points on periodic reporting. There have also been a little appreciation and concerns about the international assistance issues, and as you will see in the side events that we have, the team has prepared a toolkit. We have given the side event, the information meeting in all regions, and we will be approaching national commissions for further distribution, and we encourage very much all eligible states parties to make use of this mechanism that is available under our convention. There was also a question from the distinguished delegation of Palestine, I think, about the criterion R2 in particular, but in fact, the global reflection on the listing mechanism, which we will be hopefully concluding under the item 9 tomorrow. The conclusion of the committee was to maintain all criteria for the urgent safeguarding list and the representative list, and with the exception of one criterion for the register of good practices, most of the criteria maintained, but with a request to simplify the application thereof, to make it more understandable, particularly for the communities and so on. And Secretariat will be starting that exercise after this session of the General Assembly, so that the new form, hopefully simplified and much easier to use, will be made available later this year, early next year, for the cycle of 2024. Also, we had a question from Azerbaijan about the possibility of undertaking training for the areas of thematic initiatives. Of course, that is something that we would very much like to be able to do so, pending funding possibilities. But in the first instance, our focus is to get our approach right, because these are new areas, ICH and climate adaptations, ICH and commercializations, ICH and in urban context. As we did for the operational principles and modalities for ICH safeguarding in emergency context, we will be working with experts, open-ended working group, and so on, to be able to understand what are the issues and what could be the pertinent approaches before being able to provide training on these issues. So more to come in this area. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Fumiko-san. And we proceed with our speakers list. Next speakers are Latvia, followed by Colombia. Latvia, you have the floor.
Latvia would like to express its full support to the work of the Secretariat, and mainly for prioritizing the workload and ensuring the quality work and the attention paid for the process of implementation of the Convention. Similarly to Estonia, we particularly welcome the capacity building support provided by the Secretariat. Firstly, we would like to highlight the diligent and effective support to accompany national reporting. Latvia sees that reporting mechanisms are crucial in a truly sustainable and reflective safeguarding of intangible cultural heritage, including maintenance of inscribed elements. Secondly, the massive online open course of living heritage and sustainable development was an inspiring example for fruitful partnership with UNESCO chairs active in this field. Latvia would also wish to express our support to the active involvement of UNESCO chairs not only in the massive online open courses, but in the implementation of the Convention and recognizing the need to raise visibility of their contribution to education and research on intangible cultural heritage safeguarding. We also hope that raising visibility of the work of UNESCO chairs would contribute to enlarging their network to all regional groups. To conclude, Latvia believes that the capacity building strategy of UNESCO is of exceptional importance and it has an impact on the activity of state parties for elaborating national policies for safeguarding intangible cultural heritage. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Latvia. Colombia, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias, señora Presidente. La Delegación de Colombia desea agradecer a la Secretaría por la elaboración de un completísimo informe de sus actividades durante estos 2 últimos años, sin duda llenos de retos, pero que han enriquecido y fortalecido la gobernanza de la Convención y la han también acercado a las comunidades de todo el mundo. Además de los puntos que ya han resaltado mis colegas anteriores y de los que destaco el grupo de composición abierta para la reflexión sobre los mecanismos del listado, y aprovecho de nuevo para felicitar al embajador Oike por cómo condujo esos grupos de trabajo, queremos resaltar la importancia del trabajo que se ha adelantado para brindar herramientas, plataformas y oportunidades de salvaguardia a las diferentes comunidades involucradas en el patrimonio inmaterial. Creemos que el lanzamiento de esta plataforma de experiencia sobre el patrimonio vivo en contextos de la pandemia fue un modelo exitoso. Pensamos que dio voces a diversas comunidades y que permitió de una manera muy fácil compartir experiencias en la adaptación de modelos de salvaguardia basados en las mismas comunidades. Ciertamente, en Colombia, todos los participantes están muy agradecidos de haber tenido una voz en esta plataforma internacional y de tener un espacio para aprender de otras iniciativas. En ese sentido, invitamos a considerar que este modelo sirva para este intercambio futuro de buenas prácticas y que entrará en la reflexión que tendremos en el futuro en continuación de nuestros grupos de trabajo. Nos gustaría también traer algunas lecciones importantes extraídas de este contexto de emergencia y su relación con la salvaguardia del patrimonio inmaterial. Primero, que podemos tener un compromiso más cercano con los practicantes y portadores como partes interesadas directas del proceso de compartir experiencias de salvaguardia. Segundo, que podemos generar fácilmente canales a través de los cuales podamos conocer más sobre los diferentes contextos de salvaguardia, fomentando el espíritu de participación en la toma de decisiones establecido en el artículo 15 de la Convención, junto con estas comunidades de portadores. Asimismo, debemos reconocer la enorme resiliencia de las comunidades y sus capacidades para adoptar estrategias de salvaguardia y, en ese sentido, instar porque la política pública que sea impulsada por los estados y por otros actores sea complementaria a estos esfuerzos comunitarios. Por ello, invitamos también a los actores de la Convención a conocer mejor estas prácticas que facilitaron la comunicación y el entendimiento mutuo durante la emergencia generada por la pandemia. Finalmente, señora Presidente, quisiéramos saber más sobre cómo los Estados parte podemos promover estas buenas iniciativas presentadas a lo largo de este informe, en particular sobre el MOOC, que nos gustaría conocer un poco más también su impacto, por ejemplo, cómo va eso, cómo lo podemos subrayar más, cuántas personas han participado, bueno, qué necesidades hay para que sea más masivo. También las formas de presentar los proyectos al fondo de emergencia, pues que como nos anunciaron tendremos mañana, si no estoy mal, un side event al respecto, pero creo que es una herramienta que podríamos utilizar mucho más los Estados partes y que además también es una clara muestra de las oportunidades de articulación entre convenciones del sector cultura que nos da luces sobre la importancia de estas sinergias sobre las que queremos trabajar. Muchas gracias, señora Presidenta.
Thank you, Colombia. And next in our list is Cyprus, followed by China. Cyprus, the floor is yours.
First, we would like to congratulate you, Madam Chair, on your election, as well as the members of the Bureau. We wish you success in your work. Regarding the report, we commend the Secretariat for the activities implemented despite the challenges posed by the pandemic to the entire ecosystem of living heritage. From our perspective, the reform of the periodic report mechanism, the capacity building initiatives, The global reflection on the listing mechanisms and strengthening synergies between living heritage, education, and sustainable development are all essential steps towards the right direction for the implementation of the Convention that already turns 20 years old. Cyprus organized last year an online capacity building workshop with the Category 2 Center in Sofia and UNESCO ICH facilitators, thus exploiting the potential of synergies among different stakeholders at national, regional, and international level. Drawing from this experience, we would like to highlight the importance of empowering communities to develop their own safeguarding plans for living heritage with respect to ethical principles and sustainable development. On this occasion, we would like to commend the Secretariat for the various useful tools developed for the Convention and which we have used extensively in our workshop. Also, from our involvement in the program Teaching and Learning with Living Heritage, implemented in close collaboration with the UNESCO Associated Schools Network, we would like to reiterate that there is a huge potential for awareness raising through education and generally through intersectoral collaboration. The projects implemented have increased awareness for living heritage and motivated our schools to develop partnerships and explore innovative ways to interact with bearers and communities even beyond the duration of the program. Finally, we're looking forward to seeing in the next years the results of the holistic approach to living heritage safeguarding and sustainable development initiated by the Secretariat. We hope that the anniversary of the Convention in 2023 will provide an opportunity to identify synergies and further explore innovative ways of safeguarding and living with intangible heritage. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Cyprus. We invite China to take the floor.
谢谢主席女士。首先呢，祝贺您当选本届大会的主席，同时呢，祝贺当选的各位副主席和我们的报告员。我们相信呢，在您和主席团的领导下，本届会议能够顺利完成各项议程，并取得丰硕的成果。中方呢，很高兴看到非遗公约的影响力越来越大，缔约国的数量呢越来越多。中方呢，欢迎安哥拉和索马里加入到非遗公约缔约国的行列。中方赞赏 ADG Anthony 和秘书处呢，在过去2年间努力克服新冠疫情带来的影响，通过采取补救措施和调整工作模式，为公约的治理机构和法定的机制的正常运转提供有力的行政后勤保障和内容的支持，特别是推动全面反思非遗申报机制工作取得了重要的阶段性的进展。我们高度肯定助理总干事奥特内和秘书处在公约其他优先业务领域所做的持续的工作和取得的重要成果，包括为16个项目提供国际援助，为全球162个国家提供能力建设支持。这里边呢，其中包括33个非洲国家和30个小岛屿发展中国家。中方鼓励和支持秘书处为适应新的要求，在非遗与教育、非遗与可持续发展、 城市环境中的非遗保护等领域所做的探索与尝试。中方呢将继续为秘书处开展工作提供力所能及的支持。中方希望秘书处更加重视发挥各类遗产，包括1972年公约、2003年公约和2005年的公约，在这个教育中的作用，注意整合和利用各类遗产的教育资源，包括数字化的资源，在一代又一代的青少年的心中埋下保护和传承遗产的种子。谢谢主席。
Thank you, China. And then we go on to Mexico, followed by Mongolia. Mexico, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias, señora presidenta. Y al ser la primera vez que tomamos la palabra, permítanos felicitarla por su elección, así como el resto de los colegas que la ayudarán en esta importante tarea. En relación con el reporte presentado por el Secretariado, deseamos reconocer su labor, particularmente en el periodo más intenso de la pandemia, tal como lo señaló el subdirector general de Cultura. Nos congratulamos también del curso en línea como una herramienta idónea por la facilidad de su difusión y la importancia de sus conceptos, y apreciamos la participación de todos los especialistas que generaron su contenido, como la maestra Mezcua de la Universidad Nacional Autónoma de México. Celebramos asimismo los debates y avances logrados a través del Grupo de Trabajo Intergubernamental de Composición Abierta en el marco de la reflexión global sobre los mecanismos para la inscripción en las listas de la Convención de 2003. Queremos destacar que la presentación de reportes periódicos fue un gran desafío para los Estados parte, particularmente por el impacto del cierre de instituciones durante las medidas sanitarias y lo que esto impactó igualmente desarrollar las labores de salvaguarda y protección de patrimonio inmaterial. Sin embargo, México continuará cumpliendo con sus compromisos ante la Convención a fin de apoyar a las comunidades portadoras de nuestro país y preservar el patrimonio vivo. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Mexico. And now we invite Mongolia to take the floor.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Tout d'abord, la Mongolie tient à vous féliciter pour votre élection à la présidence de cette 9e session de l'Assemblée générale des États parties à la Convention de 2003 et pour celle des membres élus du Bureau. Chers membres des partis et du Secrétariat de la Convention, je voudrais exprimer notre sincère remerciement au travail du Secrétariat pour leurs efforts au cours des 2 dernières années. En particulier, la Mongolie souhaite saluer le bon travail de mise en œuvre du mécanisme réformé de présentation des rapports périodiques qui a considérablement amélioré les taux de soumission, la réflexion globale sur le mécanisme d'inscription et les interventions de renforcement des capacités qui ont été mises en œuvre en Afrique ainsi que dans les pays insulaires en développement. Nous tenons à saluer le vaste processus de consultation qui s'est déroulé au cours des 2 dernières années pour améliorer la mise en œuvre de la Convention à tous les niveaux. En particulier, la réflexion globale sur les mécanismes d'inscription qui a ouvert les ajustements techniques de cette Convention. La Mongolie soutient les révisions proposées aux directives opérationnelles et remercie tous les États membres qui ont contribué par leurs efforts à faire avancer ce processus à ce stade. Nous félicitons tout particulièrement l'ambassadeur du Japon, M. Oke, pour son soutien au groupe de travail à composition non limitée et la participation active de tous les pays États membres. En outre, la Mongolie apprécie les progrès réalisés dans la synergie entre les conventions culturelles de l'UNESCO et la mise en œuvre des projets et initiatives dans ce domaine. En tant que pays exploitant des projets innovants dans le secteur de l'éducation et de la culture, la Mongolie souhaite partager son expérience et contribuer au centre d'échange d'informations sur le patrimoine vivant et de l'éducation développée par le Secretariat par l'intermédiaire de nos propres projets d'initiative. Furthermore, Mongolia appreciates the progress made in making synergy between the UNESCO's cultural conventions and the implementation of the projects and initiatives in this field. As a country harnessing innovative projects in the education and culture sectors, Mongolia would like to share our experiences and contribute to the clearing house on living heritage and education developed by the Secretariat through our own initiative projects. In addition, Mongolia would like to thank the Secretariat for their close cooperation to implement the project on folk long song performance technique of limb performances, which was funded by the ICH Fund. Despite many challenges due to the pandemic, this project is fully implemented by this year and contributed to the viability of this important living human heritage. La Mongolie félicite aussi le secrétariat de l'emploi des différentes plateformes en ligne, telles que les cours en ligne sur le patrimoine vivant et le développement durable, en partenariat avec le pays membre, la République de Corée. À cet égard, la Mongolie souhaite que le secrétariat poursuive ses travaux visant à associer les établissements d'enseignement supérieur à la mise en œuvre à la Convention afin qu'ils utilisent les chaires UNESCO, les réseaux UNITWIN et au-delà. Enfin, je voudrais noter que le gouvernement de la Mongolie accorde une grande importance au patrimoine culturel et a lancé un processus d'amélioration d'environnement juridique qui a conduit à la soumission d'un amendement de la loi sur la sauvegarde du patrimoine culturel immatériel d'ici 2024 au Parlement mongol. Le groupe de travail a déjà établi et commencé à rechercher, à consulter les meilleures bonnes pratiques des pays qui ont une plus grande et vaste expérience dans ce domaine. Nous vous remercions de votre attention et vous souhaitons une session fructueuse. Merci de votre attention.
Thank you, Mongolia. Next speakers, Norway and Sweden, are invited to take the floor. Norway first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Allow me to start by commending the excellent work of the Secretariat and the committee. The last few years and the pandemic have been very challenging. UNESCO has risen to the challenge in an unprecedented situation. This is a testament not only to the importance of the Convention, but also to the dedication of the Secretariat and the governing bodies. Norway welcomes the increased number of nominations to the Register of Best Safeguarding Practices. The register addresses the very core of the Convention, but remains an underutilized resource. A better balance between the listing mechanisms is to be hoped for. We welcome the substantial increase in submission rates for periodic reporting. Norway took part in the periodic reporting cycle of 2021 and found that the process led to new insights and to a more comprehensive overview. At the same time, reporting remains time-consuming and demands considerable levels of administrative resources. There is still a potential for simplification and a potential for an increased sharing of information between different UN agencies. The financial situation of the organization and the resources of the Secretariat remain a cause for concern. We welcome the evaluation carried out by the Internal Oversight Service and its recommendations. As states parties to the Convention, we should limit the number of demands placed on the Secretariat. We thank all stakeholders involved in the global reflection process in the listing mechanisms. This deals with questions that are key to the continued viability and sustainability of the Convention. Norway reaffirms its strong commitment to a continued focus on capacity development and to a rights-based multi-stakeholder approach to the implementation of the Convention. The role of indigenous peoples is of particular importance. Norway places a continued high emphasis on this, also in the national implementation of the Convention. Norway holds this year's chairmanship of the Nordic Council of Ministers and has taken the initiative to a Nordic conference on the intangible cultural heritage of the Sami indigenous people. This is being done in close cooperation with the Sami Parliament. In addition, we highlight the continued importance of UNESCO's work with heritage in emergencies. Finally, we underscore the importance of the Convention's links with the Sustainable Development Goals, as well as striving for increased synergies with the other cultural conventions. Thank you.
Thank you, Norway, and Sweden has the floor now.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and congratulations on your election. We welcome Angola and Somalia and would like to thank Sri Lanka and Jamaica for hosting the recent committee meetings in a successful manner, although we regret not being able to visit your beautiful countries. We also wish Tim a swift recovery. Sweden would like to thank the Secretariat for this elaborate, excellent and well-presented report, and for the important results achieved. The Secretariat's activities are cornerstones for the implementation of the Convention on a national as well as an international level. We have all seen how the living heritage entity has met all kinds of challenges these years. The recent pandemic, the extensive work of the reflection of the listing mechanisms, as well as extraordinary requests. We thank you for your great work in these trying times. And as we can see under this and other upcoming items, the Secretariat's work has been carried out under limited resources. It is therefore important to make priorities and that those who are able to contribute with voluntary resources in order to strengthen the implementation of the Convention. Just a few words on the NGOs. We are happy to see how the work within the NGO Forum has developed within several important areas. The work undertaken is completely in line with the core of the Convention, and we thank them for this. The question of how to promote NGO participation in the implementation is an important issue for the future of this Convention, and Sweden is looking forward to further discuss that question during the reflection for a broader implementation of Article 18 of the Convention, a process that Sweden is pleased to finance. Hjärtligt tack, thank you.
Thank you, Sweden. And now I call on Slovakia to take the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and congratulations. Welcome the detailed report by the Secretariat, as well the activities undertaken under the still very challenging circumstances due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Appreciate the activities of all sectors: governance, capacity building, education, communication, and outreach. Especially appreciate the support of the Secretariat given the evaluation body, more specifically the development of the new online monitoring interface, which proved to be useful and continues to be used as part of the working methods of the evaluation body. Particularly welcome capacity building and digital activities aiming to safeguard intangible cultural heritage in formal and informal education. Slovakia took part in these activities for a webinar co-organize the VSO Czech colleagues on education and living heritage, teaching and learning with living heritage in October last year. In the context of the present bloody army conflict in Ukraine, we would like to underscore how important the role of the international community is to help fleeing people in the communities to safeguard these traditions and living heritage. We are proud that we are part of the UNESCO projects whose objective is to identify community-based needs for living heritage of communities, groups and individuals from Ukraine, displaced in Slovakia. All participated countries have pointed that the cultural patterns or activity in times of crisis and become a reservoir of resilience strategies. Last but not least, we would like to thank Secretariat for the intense and very useful online education for the purpose and preparing of the periodical report. Special online education during the pandemic time paradoxically brought up closer to many colleagues, and we were able to share our know-how more intensively. The preparation of a periodical report through an electronic tool helped to create a comprehensive picture of the status and challenges of the implementation of the convention within the country, and the results are now being used for settings the intersectoral policy for sustainable development of the intangible cultural heritage at the national level. Thank you much for your attention.
Thank you, Slovakia. And now, Czech Republic, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente, et félicitations pour votre élection. Nous sommes convaincus que vous dirigerez nos travaux avec succès. Salutations également à tous les collègues présents dans la salle. C'est un réel plaisir de vous voir en direct enfin. Nous voudrions saisir cette opportunité et souhaiter la bienvenue à l'Angola et à la Somalie au sein de notre convention, ce dont nous nous réjouissons. Notre délégation tient à remercier le Secrétariat pour son excellent rapport. Nous sommes une fois de plus impressionnés par la quantité et la qualité du travail accompli depuis le début de l'année 2020 et par le dévouement du Secrétariat malgré la charge de travail toujours plus importante des différentes activités liées à la Convention. Nous pensons que la réflexion globale sur les mécanismes d'inscription a été préparée et menée avec succès et représente une étape importante dans la mise en œuvre de notre Convention. Notre délégation se félicite également de la réforme des rapports périodiques, grâce à laquelle une nette amélioration du taux de soumission des rapports soit observée. Bien que le processus d'établissement des rapports soit complexe et nécessite la consultation d'un large éventail de parties prenantes, ce qui exige des ressources humaines et financières suffisantes, nous pensons qu'il a été un outil précieux pour une meilleure application de la Convention, une mise en œuvre plus efficace des politiques culturelles du PCI et un meilleur suivi des pratiques de sauvegarde. Dans le même temps, il convient de reconnaître que le formulaire est très complexe et qu'il ne serait pas inutile de le simplifier autant que possible à l'avenir. Nous apprécions également l'établissement des mesures à prendre destinées à améliorer le taux de soumission de demandes d'assistance internationale qui ont baissé suite à la pandémie, y compris la boîte à outils pour ce mécanisme. Nous ne souhaitons pas énumérer toutes les activités du Secrétariat qui ont retenu notre attention, mais plutôt exprimer combien son soutien a été important pour la mise en œuvre réussie de la Convention et de ses programmes et pour la transmission des valeurs, des connaissances et des manifestations du PCI à un moment de crise sanitaire que le Secrétariat a su gérer malgré les difficultés, ce qui nous rappelle à tous que le Secrétariat avait pu obtenir ces résultats malgré les ressources humaines restreintes. Nous pouvons rêver et planifier beaucoup de choses, mais sans le travail et le soutien du Secrétariat, cette Convention ne serait pas en mesure de produire les résultats qu'elle obtient et il y a encore un grand espace de développement. C'est pourquoi il est important d'unir nos forces et de fixer les priorités de notre travail à venir et bien sûr fournir dans la mesure du possible des contributions financières afin de renforcer les ressources humaines du secrétariat. Merci de votre attention, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Czech Republic. And the next speakers are Switzerland followed by Brazil. Switzerland, you have the floor.
Madame la Présidente, laissez-moi tout d'abord vous féliciter pour votre élection, puisque c'est la première fois que ma délégation s'exprime. La Suisse remercie le secrétariat pour son rapport riche et détaillé, qui reflète l'intense activité de ces 2 dernières années si particulières. Nous tenons ici à souligner la capacité d'anticipation et d'adaptation du secrétariat face à la crise pandémique. Ainsi, les activités statutaires ont pu se poursuivre grâce aux solutions techniques mises en œuvre. Plus encore, nous mettons en évidence l'excellent travail fourni par le secrétariat, tant sur les contenus, sur la qualité des documents, que sur la gestion de l'information en ligne. La Suisse salue la poursuite et le renforcement des activités thématiques. Nous aimerions souligner en particulier les projets concernant le patrimoine immatériel et le développement durable, les réponses à apporter au patrimoine vivant en situation d'urgence, ou encore l'éducation et le patrimoine vivant. Les collaborations et l'utilisation des synergies avec les autres conventions culturelles représentent des opportunités pour traiter des enjeux transversaux tels que le patrimoine en danger ou les effets des changements climatiques sur les biens culturels. Il est essentiel de concentrer suffisamment de ressources au secrétariat pour ces activités qui sont au cœur de notre convention. À ce titre, la réflexion sur les mécanismes d'inscription sur les listes et les révisions proposées, dont nous parlerons au point 9 de notre Assemblée, devrait permettre de modérer la charge des inscriptions sur le travail du secrétariat. Veillons donc à ne pas surcharger le secrétariat en ajoutant trop de tâches, mais en soutenant plutôt une augmentation de ses ressources et une priorisation dans leur utilisation. Je vous remercie de votre attention.
Thank you, Switzerland. And now the floor belongs to Brazil.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Brazil would like to address its special compliments to the 2003 Secretariat for its invaluable response to the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, summarized in the report Living Heritage in the Face of COVID-19. I echo the perceptions of the cultural heritage professionals as well as social groups and communities concerning intangible cultural elements in these times of resilience. Especially in the last 2 years, the cultural field suffered strong socio-economic impacts, and safeguarding actions had to adapt in different ways to respond to the demands and challenges of the new normal post-COVID-19. In this context, more than ever, the relationship between safeguarding and sustainability should be stressed, recognizing the role of the traditional, communitarian, and local knowledge and practices as means to ensure life viability and the cultural diversity of humanity. In this regard, I would like to point out that one of our initiatives in Brazil, called Cultural Heritage #@home, maintains a close connection with the results of the Secretariat's report. The idea was to support our cultural actors with equipments and skills so that they can use technology to keep their expressions, knowledge, and celebrations alive. This was also a way to keep alive the economic chain of local communities, largely affected by the decline of tourism worldwide. Madam Chair, The Convention for the Safeguarding of the Intangible Cultural Heritage has reached the age of maturity and in very good health. Even the difficulties faced were the indirect results of that success, as in the first negotiations that gave rise to this convention, in which we are proud to have played an active part. The most optimistic of delegates couldn't foresee such an exponential growth and such a great interest. In this sense, another subject we would like to highlight in the report is the synergies with other cultural conventions. The recent discussion on the so-called memory sites is one good example. The distinction between material and intangible heritage is less and less effective. We appreciate the information that 2003 Secretariat is exploring transversal policies with the Secretariats of other conventions, and you can count on Brazil to contribute with good practices on this regard. Our Institute of National Historical and Artistical Heritage has 84 years of history. It means a long experience in all areas of cultural and historical heritage, which we continue to share in the cultural forums of UNESCO and that interacts with the life of the conventions. Madam Chair, considering the impact of climate change for the safeguarding of living heritage mentioned by the Secretariat, I would like to point out that there is already a working group dealing with the issue under the 1972 Convention, so that we can benefit from some of the reflections to be aroused in that forum. We believe that there is a lot that UNESCO can contribute to the international debate on this issue, provided that we always keep in mind the established principles of common but differentiation responsibilities. In our reflections, exercises on cultural conventions, the search for new balances, both geographical and thematic, has been a major objective for Brazil. Regarding the 2003 Convention, it means, among other things, the strengthening of the register of good safeguarding practices. We are certain that many more initiatives around the world should receive this recognition, serving not only as an exemplary cases of safeguarding, but also as models of cultural sustainability and the relations between safeguarding and sustainable development. Madam Chair, dear colleagues, Brazil will continue to contribute to the universality of our convention, so that the exchange of experience between the communities and the member states can increase, and so that the geographical imbalances of the elements inscribed on the lists can be reduced. We are confident that the wide-ranging discussions carried through in the different areas of this convention will lead us to the right decisions, and we look forward to share with you your dedication and experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brazil. And the next speakers in our list are the Philippines, followed by Kenya.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Philippines acknowledges with appreciation the crucial role of the Secretariat and its commendable work in implementing the capacity-building strategies and exploring intersectoral nexus in safeguarding intangible cultural heritage during the pandemic. We take this opportunity to express our gratitude as the Philippines gains significantly and meaningfully from such efforts. These include the pilot joint capacity-building project on ICH and disaster risk reduction, a capacity-building training of UNESCO piloted in the Philippines and in Honduras, where a module on ICH in emergencies were developed with the generous support of Switzerland to the ICH Fund. In this project, The local cultural communities were able to collaborate on knowledge sharing and awareness raising and to strengthen their capacities to develop plans and policies for the institutionalization of ICH disaster risk reduction management. At the international level, this joint initiative paved the way for productive collaboration among UNESCO regional offices and countries that benefit from knowledge and best practices sharing. The role of the regional office as well as the Category 2 centers cannot be underemphasized in making the work successful in reaching and engaging the grassroots. We look forward to the continuation and replication of effective initiatives implemented and facilitated by the Secretariat in full support and for the benefit of state parties for long-term assurances of safeguarding the humanity's diverse living heritage. Thank you.
Thank you, Philippines. And now we call on Kenya to take the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, for giving Kenya the floor. And since Kenya is speaking for the first time, allow us to congratulate you on your election as the President of the 9th session of the General Assembly of State Parties to the 2003 Convention, as well as the Vice Chair and the rapporteurs elected for this session. Kenya congratulates and welcomes Somalia and Angola for joining the international community in safeguarding intangible cultural heritage through effective ratification of the 2003 Convention. We believe that through collaboration and partnership, we shall achieve more regarding the safeguarding of cultural heritage of our people. Madam President, Kenya has been and continues to be an active patron of the 2003 Convention as evidenced in its nomination and subsequent inscription of 4 elements in the list of elements in need of urgent safeguarding, inventory making and its management, and its effort to raise awareness of its cultural heritage. Kenya wishes to thank UNESCO for the generous international assistance so far received that has been utilized in the project supporting the safeguarding of the intangible cultural heritage of communities. Kenya also notes with appreciation and congratulates the Secretariat for its work in steering the implementation of the Convention during the period under review, noting that the period was characterized by a global pandemic. Kenya appreciates the Secretariat in launching the online living heritage experience in the context of COVID-19 pandemic with the aim of collecting experiences from communities on the impact of the pandemic on their living heritage and the role it could play in helping communities cope with the crisis. Kenya has indeed benefited enormously from the experiences shared and has since been able to assist communities to adapt to a more sustainable and inclusive path to recovery from the pandemic. On governance of the Convention, Kenya wishes to applaud the effort of the Secretariat in safeguarding intangible cultural heritage in emergencies and the introduction of a dialogue process between the evaluation body and submitting state as part of the evaluation process, which has since inscribed the highest number of multinational elements to 14. It is a testimony of the ability of the living heritage to bring people together and promote international cooperation demonstrated by the inclusion of an element from Haiti on an exceptional fast-track basis following the natural disaster that struck the country. This is indeed a move in the right direction as the world seeks to safeguard all its intangible cultural heritage and in solidarity with the people of Haiti. Finally, Madam President, Kenya welcomes all the reforms and transformations that have significantly strengthened the organization's support to member states, partners, and communities. We note that the development of the Convention is a positive sign for the increased awareness of intangible cultural heritage in different arenas and translate into an increased demand for UNESCO support to state party. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Kenya. Next on our list of speakers are Grenada and Ethiopia. Grenada, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My delegation would like to thank the Assistant Director General for Culture, Mr. Ottoni, for his report and commend the Secretariat for assuring the continuation of its work despite the difficulties of the COVID-19 pandemic. We commend the Secretariat for its continued support to national safeguarding efforts through international assistance mechanism, with particular attention to Africa and small island developing states. Considering the trend of receiving less requests for international assistance this year, which is likely linked to the pandemic, we commend the Secretariat for focusing on identifying the challenges encountered by states and communities in the preparation of their requests. We appreciate the preparation by the Secretariat of a toolkit on the international assistance mechanism, which should help states and communities. Madam Chair, we value the capacity building interventions in 162 countries, including in Africa and small islands developing states, which both need special attention. And we encourage the Secretariat to continue its effort in this area, including comprehensive online training course for the periodic reporting to accompany national reporting efforts and further improve the submission rate. In addition, for CITES parties, climate change is an area of urgent concern, including for the safeguarding of living heritage, and we look forward for enhanced attention in this domain. Drawing on the lessons learned with online learning during the COVID-19 pandemic, we appreciate the Secretariat initiative for a strategic reorientation of capacity building to include multimodal delivery approaches to broaden access and delivery, notably by using new technologies and the use of the first massive online open course, MOOC, developed on intangible cultural heritage and sustainable development. These procedures could and should be further developed, and we support possible cooperation with the CI sector in this regard. Hence, we encourage the cooperation of the ICH Secretariat with other program sectors of UNESCO and the possible linkages with other conventions while keeping their own specificities, including the 1972 World Heritage Convention, where concrete operational projects could be implemented in the field, for instance, by promoting living heritage and cultural tourism in World Heritage properties, or inventorying intangible cultural heritage in urban contexts. We also appreciate the continuous collaboration with Category 2 centers, UNESCO chairs, NGOs, and universities, and invite the Secretariat to strengthen these partnerships. Finally, we commend the Secretariat for having contributed to the global reflection on the listing mechanisms of the Convention, providing pertinent support to the open-ended intergovernmental working group, and we look forward for the consideration of the working group's outcomes later during this General Assembly. I thank you.
Thank you, Grenada. Before proceeding to the next speakers, I would like to ask for a 10-minute technical break. We have 7 more speakers to go. Thank you.